welcome to the last panel for today. We'll be discussing about defense, defending Europe towards an ambitious European security architecture. This is the title. We have 30 minutes to resolve these critical issues for the Europeans, and I'm sure that we'll have a very interesting discussion. We are honored to have with us today two distinguished speakers. I will start with you, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Hagi Vasiliu. You are representing Greece, which is part both of the European Union and NATO. And then welcome to the Martin Center, President Sobotka. You are the president of Campus Tivoli, our member foundation from Austria. Austria, it's not part of NATO, but it's part of the European Union. So we'll have this different perspective about security and defense in Europe and what the European Union is doing currently. Let me start with a question that, Deputy Minister, first I will ask you the question to you because we'll focus mostly on NATO, and then we'll also try to have the European Union national perspective. So we know for several months that there is this growing fear among Europeans that we might have an American retreat from Europe. And what does it mean? There are discussions about the Trump administration pulling the US troops from Europe. There is the discussion about the credibility of Article 5 commitment for the Americans. In your perspective, Deputy Minister, how can we accelerate the development of credible European pillar of NATO? On one side, to show to the citizens that the Europeans are committed to protect the conventional security on the continent, also show to the American partners that we are committed to do more for our work in Europe.
Well, you know that there is a modern term, namely the strategic autonomy of Europe, which is a term in the European Council's official text since 2013. So it's a 12 years old, let's say, term, which is still a big question. This is one of our common European goals. And allow me to tell you that the Trump administration, what did they do? They strongly urged the EU to take greater responsibility for its own defense, which is, let's say, a valid request. So as a result, the strategic autonomy is a non-negotiable priority for us. And I'm happy that the Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Mitsotakis, along with President Macron from France, were the first leaders that presented a vision about strategic autonomy of Europe a couple of years ago. And they were able to put this term in the official European language. So we started discussing about this issue at that time, à l'époque. What is our vision for that? Is not to make a European army ready to fight, to organize wars, or to travel outside the European territories. No, not at all. We are talking about a European army branch, military branch, that could be, let's say, a supplement to the NATO armed forces. And at the same time, we say that we have to enhance our defense readiness and industrial capabilities. What do I mean? I mean that we need to promote competitiveness, research and innovation among European companies and entrepreneurs. How would we be able to do that? Through joint synergies. This is the road in order to achieve the goal of strategic autonomy. At an early stage, we remember that Prime Minister Mitsotakis, along with the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, presented their idea about the European Air Defense Shield, which would be the cornerstone for a more secure Europe. This is our main goal. So to cut a long story short, I think that we have a good paper now, which is a white paper on defense readiness 2013, which describes a framework on which we could discuss and work for the future. And our position is that it's high time to boost our strategic autonomy by strengthening our defense capabilities and, of course, by fostering cooperation between like-minded countries and partners. Towards this direction, you know that we have Rearm Europe. This is why the Greek government welcomed this idea and this plan. And we truly believe that we need to run. It's high time to accelerate our movements towards this common European goal. And if we want to succeed, we have to accept that this is a common European target and not just a national one.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is very important that you mentioned the rearm plan and what we should do at the European level. President Sobotka, I would move to you and ask from Austria's perspective as a country who is neutral, but also it's part of the European Union. What's Austria's perspective on all these initiatives in developing the European security and defense policy, on all these initiatives like the white paper, the readiness 2030 or rearm Europe, how we want to call them?
We are a neutral country, but we are not neutral in our political and ideological meaning, and therefore we can support and underline what you said and mentioned. We are totally on the basis of the European Union defense policy, common defense policy. We have, when you look at the conflict in Ukraine, we had a substantial and really we underlined the position of the European Union and constructive abstention we vote. It is not possible in our treaty, in our constitution. That's a problem, and we have to change it. But I think we are partner in the NATO for the peacekeeping. We are a partner of the European defense branch. Mm-hmm. But we have to see. I think it's now when the world should turn upside down. It's the last chance and the last opportunity for the European Union to find a new spirit of the common defense system. But when you look back, the last common project was the Eurofighter. It was ERDS, it was the industrial section of aeroplanes. And since this, for the years, there was no common system. I hope that the white paper and will be the framework. You mentioned that's a framework for also for industrial policy, for rearming Europe. But it's so spreading, and we see that it's not so easy to find a common interest for in arming industries. When you look at Austria, we sold our munition company. We have, from times we built rifles, we sold it. We had tanks, we sold it because it's but a position since 1989 that Fukuyama said is the end of the history. There was we had never be attacked from each and another country. And now we see, since the war in the Ukraine, since near Middle East, what happened, since the many conflicts, that Europe is not an island. And we have, I think it could be really a possibility, and therefore we support all the initiatives that will make Europe stronger. And when you see that in the Cold War, there was the intention to be so strong that you will not be attacked. And that's gone. And we must rebuild our brain. But I'm not sure Europeans, and look at Germany and France and Italy and Austria as well, are really able to put the arms and defend our freedom, our society, our human rights when we are attacked. I'm not sure it is possible to do it. Greece is a little bit different. You're really in a special situation.
You know that we're a big spender as well
yeah.
inside the UN NATO,
yeah.
which means that Greece is a good example of a country that is ready to invest in its army abilities.
You have made more than others. And in the other countries, we spend in the 90s 0.5% of our GDP for the military side. But we are really partners when you look in the Balkans. We are in the peacekeeping forces. We are very well educated. We are the partners of all the armies. I think it's in our interest to have a strong European Union. But you have to see that each country has a different roots where coming from.
Yeah. And I really hope, and you are right, both of them are right, that we need to build this credible European deterrence. And for that, we need to make sure that we have enough capabilities. We have all the strategic enablers, especially those strategic enablers that we currently are dependent on the American partners. And of course, we need the political will. We need to explain to our population the fact that the Russian threat will remain for the immediate to medium term, that there might be the possibility to have a Russian attack again on the continent in the eastern flank. So I would also want to move one step further, because both of you were saying about the white paper for defense. This is a new initiative at the European Commission. For the first time in the history of the Commission, we have a commissioner for defense and space. We have for the first time the Commission working more on building defense policy, which traditionally was considered competence of the member states. And we have now this white paper for defense, which is also a new milestone for the European institutions. In your view, what are the three main structural problems or political challenges at the EU level or member states level from building a unified or coherent approach to security and defense?
Look, first of all, we're living in a time of change, in a world of instability, uncertainty. That means that strengthening the European Union's defense capability is at least essential. Yes, for Greece it's a priority. And if we continue going on with
But do
the
you believe
previous,
that will happen?
the previous data, that means that we cannot accept the reality. The reality is totally different today. And we don't have only the threat coming from Ukraine, from Russia. We have, first of all, threats in the Western Balkans, in the Mediterranean Sea. We have threats in the Middle East, and of course we have cyberspace as well. That means that we need to move forward. I don't think that there are challenges preventing Europe from having a unified front, but I think that we have some challenges inside.
Sorry, excuse me.
No problem. So I think that we have some challenges to deal with inside the European family. First of all, we need coordination. Without a robust coordination mechanism, we would face the danger of fragmentation in investment among member states. This is, to my opinion, priority number one. The second thing is financial market sensitivity. We understand that we have to discuss about Eurobonds maybe, or any other means of funding, of common funding, in order to support such a concept for the European military action. And last but not least, I think that we need democratic legitimacy. We need all the parliaments on board, not only the European Parliament, but the national parliaments as well. And we need, of course, a transparency in the procurement process in order to send a message to the European people that we are here to invest their money in the proper way. So this is what I believe, and I think that we don't have so much time to make it happen. We need to move as soon as possible.
I agree with the fact that we have to move as soon as possible. The plan that Commissioner Kubilius have is this Readiness 2030. Basically, we have a deadline by 2030 to put our house in order, at least to increase more the defense spending on building more capabilities, on joint procurement, on buying more Europeans and building more in-house European. I would also want to ask you, President Sobotka, in your view, what are these structural problems that keep us separate and keep us fragmented in not building a solidified European defense union?
Yeah, the minister mentioned that was what we should do and what we should provide. But look at the industries, the weapons industries. Russia is now able to 4 million munitions per day. In Europe, it's 1 million. We are quite bigger and quite stronger, but we are not able to do it. Our industries is quite weak. We are not harmonized. Look at in America, you have one tank and one structures, and we have 27 different structures. That's really one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's also on our mindset. I mentioned it in the first question. I think it's and the deterrence of the Cold War. And when we see all the development, I don't believe that people are really able, and you say we should do it, but I don't, we have the framework, we have the idea, but we have not, and you mentioned that we were the legitimization of the parliaments. But I think it's to less we should have really the engagement of the peoples. It should be bottom up, that there's an interest. I think, especially in Austria, in my perspective, people are not aware that what it means really the danger, what was mean the threat. We had a lot of threats in the cyber field. We had a lot of threats when you look about the drone that comes to Croatia. Nobody has an idea that a drone comes from the Ukraine or from Russia to the Croatian, and then an impact, really a big impact there. And therefore, I think it should be also, we should work on our brain and our education and field. And perhaps we can see that it's when we want to hold our welfare and when we hold our standards, we have to do more. It's, I think it's a morning call for us, to do more. When America is not really willing to protect us in this form, that we have to see what our obstacles for a common spirit, what we have to do in the future. But I'm not so optimistic. I think it will be a lasting a long period, and it's my experience. People always change their mind when they're really affected, when they really see what happens.
So you don't believe that we reach that point, critical point, for the citizens to feel the urgency or for the politicians to feel the urgency to
look at the
move in the right direction?
Look at the migrant situation. The beginning of 2015, people went to our railway stations and welcome all the flows of migrants, and now they see the big problems what we have. We have really, in the last years, Muslim community grows up in an enormous way, 10%, and it's changed our attitudes, our behavior in the society. People see it not, they didn't see it in 2015, but they see it now. And then now they have this, the sensitivity to be ready to change their mind.
Yeah. When we are speaking about all these ideas on the future European security architecture, we are also thinking about the fact that all future European security architecture will have to take into account Ukraine.
Of course.
My question to you, Deputy Minister, how can we integrate Ukraine and its lesson learned from the war in all these European defense initiatives that currently are developed in Europe? And I have a further question. What other partnerships in Europe or beyond Europe do you envision that you should focus on to strengthen more our strategic approach in the world, but also to secure more our future architecture that we'll be building after ceasefire?
First of all, I would like to make a general remark on the situation in Ukraine. You know that the Greek position and the position of Prime Minister Mitsotakis is crystal clear from the very first moment. We're standing by Ukraine. You know that we always support any sovereign state that receives a foreign invasion from a third country, and this is what is happening in Ukraine the last years. And of course, we truly believe that we need an immediate, just, fair, and lasting peace for the sake of the Ukrainian people, always connected with international law. This is our key priority. And I'm happy that for the first time in those 3 years, we're witnessing some positive, let's say, efforts aiming to give an end to the suffering of the Ukrainian people. But I have a message to send on behalf of the Greek government that there can be no peace for Ukraine without Ukraine. The Ukrainians should be a part of the negotiation process at all levels and in any stage. And a strong and safe Ukraine is essential for guaranteeing its freedom. So this is our position, and I'm proud of underlining this. You discussed about Ukraine's integration in the European defense industry. Yes, I think that it will enhance its security situation in both short and medium, let's say, term, even long term. It's too early to say that, but I think that we could discuss also a long-term process. You know that there are some important discussions that bring Ukraine closer to the European defense system. You know, for example, the EDIP or the Security and Action for Europe plan. So in both projects, Ukraine is being given a consideration, a significant consideration, which is really important to both sides, I mean, Ukraine and the European Union. And when we discuss about Europe's security architecture, we have to admit that it's high time to redefine it. If we do not move towards that direction, that means, I will repeat it again, that we do not accept the new reality that exists across Europe. So, what do we believe? That Europe will inevitably seek for partnerships, but with whom? Only with like-minded partners and countries fully aligned with the common foreign security policy. This is a conditio sine qua non if we want to discuss about a partnership among European and non-European states when we discuss about European defense. And I'm happy that Ukraine probably belongs to the first category. Ukraine is a candidate state. Ukraine is a member of the greater European family. So there is no question when we discuss about Ukraine. But I have to say that at the same time, we have to keep NATO on board. It's an important security component for both European Union and, of course, Ukraine, as the majority of the EU states are also members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And I truly believe that the transatlantic bond will continue to play a pivotal role, even in the new architecture of security for the European continent. We are proud members of NATO, of course, at the same time, proud members of the European Union. So we need to make the right combination and to move forward towards the future. Allow me to remind you of something else, that when we discuss about security in Ukraine, we have to discuss about EU enlargement. This is why we truly support Ukraine's European vocation, and at the same time, we have to support the Western Balkan states'
Since 2003.
European vocation. Exactly.
Since 2003,
I
Saloniki.
understand that sometimes there is a fatigue in the European societies about either Ukraine or Western Balkans, but we have to send a clear message. We really support EU's enlargement, both towards Ukraine and towards the Western Balkans. Otherwise, we will face a big danger. We cannot afford losing another generation in the Western Balkan societies. You know that for almost 2 decades, the European Union turned a blind eye on the Balkan societies that were lasting for a European future, for a European perspective, for freedom, for growth, for everything. When I'm talking about freedom, I'm talking about democratic institutions and the rule of law. And what did we do à l'époque? We left them alone, we turned a blind eye on them, and we lost almost 2 generations of Western Balkan people that were lasting for a European future. We should not repeat the same mistake. And I'm happy that the Greek government is at the forefront of the enlargement of the European Union. Yes to Ukraine, yes to the Western Balkans, and yes to all the candidate states that accept our core values and principles. And yes, when we discuss about cooperation with third parties, we have to be sure beforehand that they truly adopt our values, that they truly accept whatever we support in our common foreign security policy or in the common security defense policy. We have also CSDP. Therefore, if anybody wants to join these ideas, we are open to discuss about a possible synergy. So, what is my message today? We say yes to partnerships, but no to dependencies. And this is what Europe has to do in the next years if Europe really wants to make a pivotal movement towards a strategic autonomy. And yes, alongside with Ukraine, which we truly support and will continue to support as long as it's needed.
I agree with what you said, and all those partnerships that the European Union will create, not only they have to be like-minded partners, they also have to basically sign a security and defense agreement with the European Union, making sure that we have also the technicalities there in order. And Ukraine has this security and defense partnership. That's why Ukraine can be involved in
Exactly.
the European defense market and all this safe financing proposal, for example. But now I would like also to move one step more, because you, President Sobotka, was mentioning that we also have to keep in mind the whole of society approach to security, and we also have to look at democratic security. I'm coming from a country who faced the problems of foreign interference in our electoral campaign in Romania quite recently, a couple of months ago. So I understand that security also requires social resilience. And my question to you is, how can we protect ourselves? We, European Union, can protect our societies from disinformation and manipulation which are coming from foreign actors.
First, I want to underline your remarks that we should take care that the enlargement for the six Balkans should be in the same way with the relations to not only the Ukraine, as also Moldavia.
Yes, of course, Moldova.
The Moldova is, it's for
I
us,
fully agree.
I think, crucial. But when you enlarge the European Union, you have to reform the institutions, because it is not, I can imagine that we can make our enlargement in this way where they do now, with in the structures we are now, with 27 commissioners and the Commission and the Council. We have to find a new process for acting. Or we find a solution that we offer the partners a really a good moment, not to be a full member of the EU, because we are too sophisticated. People don't accept it when you're be there in Macedonia and Albania. I was often there and have seen.
You mean North Macedonia?
Not, excuse me, Northern Macedonia. Yeah, you
It's
see.
okay.
Yeah, you see it. And or even in Kosovo or in Serbia, we have a lot of problems there. And therefore, I think we should think about it's not a normal process like Romania or Bulgaria. You can continue. We should also think about a new way.
And
Coming to
democratic
the question is, I think, to protect our civil societies. When I was a Minister of Interior, I demanded at the beginning we have to tackle the social medias like the online medias. Both have the same effect, but an online medium has an editor or the chief redactor, and the platform has nothing. And we're always 2 steps behind the crime, 2 steps behind deep fakes. We cannot really act as a police. We have no really instruments to prevent this disinformation. That's one, but it is also in the technical field. We cannot train really an algorithm in Europe, because we have not the big computers like in America. When you look in the history of the European Union, we have no, since the 90s, we have no social media big company. We have no companies measuring our money, currencies. You have so many lost against the US. And therefore, I think it's for us at the last moment to be aware that we have to fight against these influences really with the strong possibilities we have, and that we should need the technical foundations, we need the laws, because when you look at in America, data are a consumer everywhere. In Europe, it's always based on prevention and always on thinking to protect people. I think we have to change our minds. Then we cannot really, we are not competitive with the others, and therefore we will when you look about the elections, we have really the problems. We see it in Austria as well, not only in Romania.
Okay.
The influence of the Russian.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know that this topic, we can speak about it for hours and hours without reaching a conclusion, but unfortunately our panel, it's ending. Thank you very much again for your presence and for your
It's a pleasure.
insightful remarks. I'm really confident that we'll move in the right direction and that we'll become stronger and will be able to protect the security of our continent and the security of our population as the European Union.